Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. So this strange idea started forming in my mind as I was reading through all your wonderful suggestions from the square tube airlift that I put together. I was thinking as I was doing this, what kind of filter would I build that would encompass as many of the suggestions as possible? And then I started thinking back to another video I did a while back, which was the crazy bubble wall one I did, when a number of people wanted me to put something together that would turn that into something useful. So this idea started forming, and I thought, well, what can I do? I could probably put together something that would encompass as many of your ideas as possible. Hence this. This is going to be a bubble wall airlift, and it's going to run an underground filter, and it's also, if you think about it, going to be a low profile box filter. So it's going to be an under gravel box filter bubble wall. I think that's everything. All right, there you go. Anyway, all the silliness aside, this is actually going to be a functional filter. It's going to be a bit of a difficult build, but after building this square tube lift, I think it's not going to be too much. I think I got most of the bugs out of the build when I was putting that together, so we'll see how this goes. The only tricky part was deciding what order to glue everything up in. And as you can see, I started with the top because that has to be airtight. So this piece here and all the subsequent pieces have to be snug and airtight against it. Which meant I had to do a glue up for that end piece, or the top I should say, when it is actually not sitting on top of something. So that's why I just tacked it on a little bit here and there, and then once I had it sufficiently rigid, then I turned it up on its side and finished the glue for it. Now I can't have, well actually one of the things I found that was the hardest or least functional about the crazy bubble wall is the sheet is too flexible. It's only 1/8, so there's too much give from one end to the other. So that's why I'm putting these in here. These are going to give me the rigidity I need and also the air seal I need, because the other thing I found about that bubble wall is it's very difficult to get even flow from one end to the other. I mean, while I was building it and while I was running it, I put a bit of a curve in the tube so it was bent up in the middle. But even with that, I found I would end up with uneven airflow. It would end up being more on one side than the other, which is kind of nice, I suppose, for getting those kind of weird bubbles. But for a filter, it has to be a little bit more even than that. I mean, I don't think this is going to be perfectly even, because there's still going to be about 2.25 inches in between each of these dividers. And also, when this is hooked up into an aquarium, even though I've gone to a single row, you can see there, instead of 2 rows of holes, no aquarium is perfectly level. So there's going to be a slight difference in elevation between one side and the other. And as you know, when you pump air through something, it will choose the least path of resistance, and that will probably end up being end up with having bubbles out of one side more than the other. So that will still give us some of the chaotic aspect to it, which is kind of cool, as I really do want that. But it will end up resulting in a little bit of uneven flow. The other thing that will happen because of that is, I mean, this is being run by 3 separate airlines. I mean, technically they are coming off of the same pump, but there will be different pressure between them because, again, there's going to be they're going to come from different lengths along the line. But I think in the end, it'll give some turbulent flow, or bubble-wise at least anyway. And then I think it's because of the amount of flow that's going to come out of this, I think that will compensate for the slight unevenness. So I think in the end it should end up working quite well. I mean, there's actually, believe it or not, there's no new principles here. There's nothing that I haven't built before. It's just being done in a slightly different format. I've run air-driven underground filters, and I've had no issues whatsoever with those. I obviously have air-driven box filters, and they work fine. And technically, an undergravel filter and a box filter are rather similar anyway, because they work on the same principles. The only difference is one is a little more shallow, well, actually a lot more shallow, and can be buried under gravel for the tank, and the other one obviously sticks up more. Now, this is going to be the undergravel filters I've made so far were 3 inches in depth from from the bottom all the way to the top. And this is going to be 3.5, just to give me a little bit of a gap in the top piece so that I can have a little bit of an air gap there to allow water to flow evenly around where the matting's going to be. Now, when I was starting to build this, I thought what I would do is I would take down the original matting filter I had, but I did manage to find a piece of polywool that's going to be big enough to fit in here, and I'm going to use that instead for the time being. But I suspect as this situation of ours continues, I may have to end up cannibalizing some of existing filters to keep these projects going. Hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully we'll be able to get out and start doing some life stuff again, but we'll have to see how all that goes. So as you can see, this glue up is actually really straightforward. The only thing I haven't done so far is I haven't glued the sheet that has the bubbles in it that's going to come up, the bubble holes. I haven't glued that to those dividers yet, because I can't have any air pressure going between one and the other. That way I will end up with having good enough even flow. We'll see how that all goes. So this is This is comparing the old one, which is a lot wider. So I narrowed that up a bit. I don't think it's necessary to make it as thick as that. I think I actually could have made that one, even the thinner one, probably at least a ½ inch narrower as well. But in this particular case, because I have so much length in this, I don't think there's going to be any issue whatsoever with the flow. So like in all the other undergravel filters, there's going to be spacers in the bottom there. This is going to fit on top. And because I am going to be using gravel, I'm going to put a little piece of screen in here. So this is almost identical, if you just look at the bottom part, to the airlift for the undergravel. Now the only difference here is this plate. I didn't bother showing you me drilling all those holes because it's really tedious. So this is going to fit in snugly, and it's going to hold the back plate in place, and that is pretty much the build. A low profile box filter that's going to act partially as an undergravel, and with the holes on top, we're going to get nice even flow through the matting, or in this case polywool, down through the gravel, and then it should create a good amount of turbulence as this thing breaks the surface. So I'm going to give you one more clip here, which is going to be from the front, just to give you a view of it as its profile, to show you just the overall aesthetics of it. I mean, it looks pretty good. It came together well. And all I'm going to do now is put some gravel in it, some polywool, stick it in an aquarium, and get it running and show you how that works. And actually, even though this was kind of made as a kind of a joke, it is kind of interesting to see when you're building filters, there's actually a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of things that you can do, and a lot of ways that you can vary things and still have something that is functional. And that's probably what the only message I want you to take away from this. So let's just fill the sucker up. There you go. Put it in the water, and I'm going to hook up the air lines. And because I am pulling them off of the system, the first one actually won't start. When I put the first one on, you can see the air going down, but it's there's still 2 unplugged ones. So it's not really going to start bubbling until I get the third one going, when I have no easy access for the air to escape. So there goes the second one. And then when I hook up the third one, wait for the bubble chaos. And there you go. I think it's kind of cool. I'm actually kind of glad that I did get around to putting together something that worked off of that, like the bubble wall, where you have a bunch of crazy things happening. The only thing that I did wrong here, I think, is I should have made it taller. This doesn't quite go to the surface. I wanted, like, again, because of all the things that are happening, I am running out of sheet, so I'm not trying to waste too much, and if I made it go all the way to the surface, it would use up a lot more material, and then with a lot more offcuts. So that's one of the shortcomings of this, but I think it turned out good. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this thing, and if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated. And as always, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.